right. So welcome everybody to this iteration of the FOFS podcast for rising actors. So excited to be here with you all today on International Women's Day, no less. Totally on purpose, apparently. But how is everybody? Allegedly.
Allegedly.
How is everybody?
Good.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
It's International Women's Day. Like, it's the perfect day to do
Good
this.
day. Good day to be a woman.
Yeah.
It's a good day to be a woman.
Should we do little introductions before we
Totally,
dive into one of these cool questions they have for us on the table? I'll start, I guess. So I'm Zaarin. I know two of you, and funny enough, Andrea and I actually went to university together, but I haven't seen her since then.
University, I think.
Yeah, so like
Wow.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
But tiny Toronto industry. I'm an actor, obviously. And a filmmaker. I know, shocking. I know. I'm an actor, filmmaker, and I guess I play Pooja in White Elephant on CBC Gem. I think, especially during COVID, we realized how isolating things kind of were, and especially in the creative industry, I think you can really get in your head a lot. And the way to combat that is just by talking to other people and talking to your peers and figuring out where they're at, or just generally, I feel that whenever I am feeling like I'm in a slump, just talking to another artist just gets me out of that slump almost immediately. And I feel more motivated to keep doing the work that I'm doing because it's like, you're all in this together, is what it ends up feeling like. So I definitely think there should be more of that.
I'm Rachel Kramer. I'm an actress as well. And I'm really happy to be here. I've been working for 2 years. Film is my passion, I guess. Yeah. I actually wanted to be a director when I was like a kid. My dad got me into movies. Later on, when I was around 17, 18, I wanted to understand what was going on in front of the camera to be a good director one day. And so I took a work class in Montreal, where I grew up, and I fell in love with acting, and I never looked back. But I like to be surrounded by people that kind of believe in the same things that I do in terms of movie making. I like movie lovers, because I am too, so.
Nice. It's a good pass off. I like that a lot. My name is Rebecca Kwan. I feel like I'm slating a little bit. Like, how tall are you? I'm 5'4", I'm from Toronto, Ontario. Yeah, my name is Rebecca. I was on the CBC Gem Paramount Plus show, SkyMed, and I just got off of a role on this new feature called Jersey Boy.
Nice.
When I was little, I would beg my dad to take out this huge camcorder and film all of my skits that I wrote. I would dress up in like a fairy costume. I had like a top hat and anything. I just would make up my own skits and I would write them down in my journal and stuff. I think a lot of the time our industry promotes competition when I firmly believe there is no competition. It's not up to us, and I feel like our industry could really use more warm people to welcome you in and to support you along the way. It's a tough industry and we need a lot of that.
My name's Andrea Pavlovic. It was like slating. It's so awkward. We should talk about that after, actually, how awkward slating is.
Slating is, yeah.
I am also an actress, writer, filmmaker, and I recently had a film that went to Sundance called In a Violent Nature, where I played a character named Chris. It's a really cool take, actually, on your like typical slasher film, but it is from the perspective of the monster. It's so like cool. So cool.
It sounds really cool.
Yeah, and beautifully shot. The team was incredible. Anyways, and I just got off of working on the remake of Cruel Intentions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna sound really cheesy, but I get this like tingle up and down my spine when something feels really exciting to me. And it's so specific, it's different to every project, right? And I think it's just right place, right time. Sometimes a project falls onto your lap that's like meant to be for you. This is gonna sound so woo-woo, but I don't know, it's just, there is something so magical about it, about art, right? You know, I used to be really scared of sounding too deep or caring too much, but I think that's actually a superpower, and now I just really dive in deep when I meet people for the first time. I think there's something so special about people who are willing to meet you where you are.
You're very booked and busy these days.
Yeah.
Grateful,
Yeah.
like so grateful.
I'm so happy for you. Like, you
thank
are
you.
well deserving of it.
Thank you. No, I'm like crying. It will happen. Thank you. Yeah, it was cool. It was my first time being on like a bigger set. It filmed down Revival, down by Lakeshore. Yeah. The
Yeah.
studios over there. So it was like definitely a really cool experience to be on like a manufactured set, right?
Right,
Like they
yeah.
they created all the environments. So that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I never had that experience before because I started at indie and doing like
Right.
just like
Indie's a little more like shaky production, sort of
Yeah,
like everyone
small
is
bones, like-
close to. Yeah.
All the found locations
Yeah.
and like ragtag team sleeping on
Wearing
the
so many
pavement,
hats.
taking naps.
Yes, wearing so many hats. That is the perfect
Love those
description of an
naps.
indie film.
Yeah.
Like there's always people wearing more than one hat on a production, such as a bigger production. Everyone has their own hat for the
Yeah,
most part.
It's very
I
true.
think.
Totally. Are you? So you've done a bunch of indie before?
I did. So I haven't done indie, but I guess it would be considered indie because it wasn't union considered over there. I did a movie in Slovakia
Oh,
last January, which was really fun. I kind of made a family away from home a little bit. I was there for like almost 3 months. It was considered a feature film over there, and still is. But over here was just non-union. Like I've only just become a union actor. Yay!
Congratulations. That's a big step. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy because I've been working for 2 years, but I'm just now becoming a union actor. And you'd be so surprised about the good productions that are out there that are non-union.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's incredible. Like, I feel like there's, those stereotypes of, those, I don't want to say this, like, those opinions of, oh, you're a non-union actor. Or, oh, this is a non-union production. It can't be that good. But when you have good people that have the same intention and want to do the same thing all together, then it's going to go so well. And I've
Absolutely,
been
for
so lucky and blessed to have made not only really, really good projects, but also like really good friendships too overall. And I'm so grateful. Yeah.
No, non-union stuff can always be super fun. And I've seen so many good non-union projects. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like, do I want to go back to being non-union? Because
That's
the
real.
amount of stuff that's
real.
out there that isn't union and is so interesting, especially in Toronto. The call is very real. Like, it's very tempting.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Breaking the barriers, right? Like
Yeah.
different storytelling that you don't really see in Hollywood or see like in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And story is king at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And there's so many interesting niche stories that don't get as much exposure to mainstream media.
So true.
And that's why I love indies. Personally, I like, that's the dream.
Whenever I get like an indie audition, I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, like, this is gonna be good. Like, I can read this, and I'm gonna have a fun time doing this one. Whereas, like, like all the actor stuff, they're so great, and it's so great to be able to do like all these auditions for Toronto productions and the event and stuff that's coming over here.
Yeah.
But it's like after a while, I think for all actors, it feels a little repetitive because whether they be smaller roles or it's like they're only casting. I know it's changing right now with the CRTC hearings and what they're trying to do in terms of how the industry is shifting, but all the leads or like really like meaty roles have already been cast in LA and they've already been cast in New York. And like by the time it kind of gets to Toronto, it's like there are some good roles, but a lot of it is like you get what you can get. Yeah, exactly. It's like cadet number 3 and like
That's literally when I was on Skymed. I was like cadet number 3.
Like my Henry role was like Muslim girl number 1, and I was like grateful.
I hear you. I've been like florist. I've been, like those are, I feel like more of my formative years as well was doing those roles and learning just like the lingo and culture on big sets like that.
Totally.
So those roles, like those really, really form you as an actor.
Absolutely.
And I remember being the florist. It was part of this, actually it was an indie film as well. It was Patricia Razima's Mouthpiece. And just being around women doing the damn thing in their power and just directing, like the writers were both women. It was just so empowering to be a part of, and it was inspiring in that sense. And I guess even just my little small florist role, it was nice starting out, just seeing how everything moves and how coherent, I guess, everything was.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? I don't mind being florist. I don't mind being florist right now.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of nice to not have to worry about your performance all that much when you're new on a set or when you're starting out as an actor.
It's true.
And you're like, you know, what is being on set actually like? And like, it's good to be able to get your reins a little bit, I guess, before you're like, oh, like now the camera's actually on me in such a significant way. And if I mess up, it's going to be really embarrassing. Whereas when you're like, if you're like Cadet 3 or Muslim Girl number 1, it's just like, yeah, like I can definitely walk down this aisle.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
That's so beautiful though that you had that experience, like you really enjoyed being florist.
Yeah.
Because I think smaller roles, you can have such different experiences on different types of sets. So even having like a female director and having that space created, which sounds like it was a safe space.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
But
But, like-
making those connections even with the director and with the writer, were they there? You said it was a director-writer team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were so fantastic. Actually, Mouthpiece was originally a play, and I think it was on Broadway at a certain time, and then they formatted it into a feature, which was so great. It was like a musical number. There's a bunch of musical numbers too. I was not a part of it. I wish I was, but yeah, my scenes were very, very short, but I just loved that experience, and you know, learning about coverage and camera A and camera B and understanding all of that really prepared me for, you know, like my first series regular and like being on a feature set, being on like a network show, which was jarring.
Was that your first role that you ever booked? Or
Florist?
yeah.
I booked like smaller roles and like indies and stuff like that, but Florist was like, I think my first real speaking role.
Gotcha.
I had like a one-liner, but I don't know. It was a full scene, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
about you? Yeah.
My first, you're talking about first roles and like having like a one line or whatever, having the opportunity to learn what it's like to be on set. My first role was the lead in a show on CBC now, and
Nice.
I kind of had to learn first day how everything worked. I just remember the pressure that I put on myself. I was like 6 months out of film school, and I was like, it was hard to embrace the fact that I was still a student. Like I was still a student, and I had so much to learn, and working on set is the best school you could ever go to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
I think that experience, I was in Winnipeg for almost 3 months, and that really, I guess, created a base to rely on in terms of like understanding how literally everything works on a set with, you know, how the first AD is to the director, and like creating relationships professionally and friendships aside, and sort of maintaining like the capacity to leave work at work and then go home and sleep and let go of everything that you've done so far. Like that was a challenge at first, but towards the end of shooting, which by the way, we were doing like almost 6 days a week, 15 hours a day, and it was complete insanity. I didn't know this was normal or not. Like that was, I was there all the time. Like I wasn't, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to do that the first time I ever booked anything like professional. But it also, I think, has left me to a point where I guess the pressure is always going to be there, I think. And that's what I realized too at the end of it, and booking more work afterwards, is that I stopped trying to push down the pressure, push down the nervousness, and embrace it instead and work with it, because you can't just ignore and push aside. If you're supposed to live emotions in a scene, you're supposed to embrace whatever also is taking over your life too, at a certain degree. Yeah. It's just, you have to work with it. You have to like push through it, I think.
Yeah.
That is super cool though, for your first role to be
It was
in a CBC show.
It was frightening.
Yeah. Sure. No, that's phenomenal.
I think that's the perfect
incredible.
word. It was completely
That's
frightening.
incredible.
But I'm so grateful. I mean, I'm grateful for the really big highs and lows of it all, because you know, like there's so many things that I tried to predict, and I've always been this way. Like growing up, I was always trying to like keep everything together, and I fell apart during this shooting. But I fell apart in a way where like it was good, because I need to break out of that comfort zone that I had always known, because that's what it does. We go to like to different set, and it's never the same. Like you can never predict what is going to happen, because every experience with different individuals in a crew or cast, like we're always going to be students, and we're always going to have to become, I guess, these adapters to life and adapters to these different environments, I guess, that we get thrown into.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And hopefully be lucky enough to work with people on sets who are also of that same mindset,
Yes,
right? Because
yeah.
I think that's like when you can collaborate with people who also admit that like they don't know.
Yeah.
Like when you work with directors who are like, I don't know, let's figure it out together.
Yes.
Like
so
that's
much more
when magic
fruitful.
happens. Yeah.
Then when someone's like, yeah, like I'm an expert in this industry and you're nothing, so
Well, that's all ego.
That's, yes.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And ego's hard to collaborate with.
Yes.
100%.
When you were talking about, I think, just letting go,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much beauty in that surrender of just
Yeah.
being like, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen today on set. And I'm just going to go with it because
Yeah.
that's where all those really great spontaneous moments come up where you're like, all my prep, going over it, I know my lines, I'm down.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's like, oh, wow, my partner who's like very, very generous in the scene is doing something else that I didn't expect him to
Yeah.
do or her.
Yeah.
So I always say him because for some reason my career has always just been with me and Pranita Killa. I love him so much. He's my best friend. Like that was one of the greatest experiences working with him on SkyMed and now on Jersey Boy as well.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. It was just like
That is so funny.
weirdest coincidence. We both say we're like, I'm like your Drew Barrymore to your Adam Sandler now.
Oh, that's so good though to have that. To have that
Yeah.
person that you kind of know you can work with and you end up working again together. Like that
Yeah.
says a lot about your chemistry.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like me and Praneet, I love him so much. He just makes me laugh. He always makes me feel so comfortable. On SkyMed, there was lots of scenes that I'd never done before. So he always was like, no problem. Like, let's talk about it. Did you want to Zoom? He was just like a very generous scene partner. And I'll always be thankful that my first series regular was all with Praneet.
It's so
And-
important to have scene partners who are like that
Yeah.
in any type of role, no matter how big or small. Like it makes entirely the difference as to how your performance goes because you're just kind of like that comfort level that you need with the other actor in the scene just completely determines how you're going to be saying words or feeling about it or even just reacting to anything. And it's like, I'm so grateful to luckily never have had these terrible experiences with like when you hear about other people and they've had like really bad co-star stories. And I'm just like, I can't even imagine going through that because it's such a vulnerable work to be doing to begin with. And then to have not have that support with your partner would really suck. So I'm really glad to hear that like you had such a great experience with Praneet on both these shows for Jersey Boys a movie.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So Jersey Boys was written and directed by Jazz Singh. He's also a close friend that we kind of met actually the same year that we met, like at TIFF. And you know, we just got on really well, and he told me briefly about Jersey Boy and that there was like a part in it for an Asian girl, and I was like, you know, everyone always says that, and you're kind of just like, oh, that sounds great. Like, I'd love to hear about it, blah, blah, blah. But nothing ever really comes to fruition.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, like, yeah, we'll have you audition for it and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, sure, cool, no problem. Didn't expect to hear anything about it. But he was like, oh, did you want to go up for Alice? And I was like, hell yeah, right? Like, of course. You know, Jersey Boy is such a touching story, and it's such an important story. It's about a Sikh boy growing up in a post 9/11 world after a personal family tragedy, and especially with, you know, certain political topics and the political climate that, you know, our friends stateside are. I just thought that I need to be a part of this film. This is so important, and it got on the CAPE list for best script, I think, that year, and it's just brilliant writing, and Jazz did such an amazing job with it. And I really felt honored that he even trusted me with Alice, because actually the character of Alice was written after his best friend.
Oh, wow. So it was personal.
Definitely, yeah. So I was kind of shook. I was like, are you sure? Like, that's okay? And he's like, yeah, like, audition. So I auditioned for him, and he was like, great, you got it. He Steven Spielberg'd me. You know when like they did the E.T. audition?
Yeah.
It was so cute. Like,
I love that for you.
every actor wants to hear that.
I know,
You know what I mean? Like, you
like
got
the
it,
dream.
kid. You got it. I was like, shit. It was a smaller role. Yeah. I felt so honored, but it was, you know, a smaller role, but it was part of the catalyst to move the plot along for the lead, and I was like, you know what, in any capacity that could be part of this, even if I'm cadet number 3, I will
getting to collaborate with these people that you wanted to work with
exactly
for a while.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's a story you believe in. It's something that like you feel as passionate about as the other people involved. Like that's what matters. Like that's I think why we should all do what we do. Is like if you're I don't know, number 3 or number 8 on the cast list, who cares? Like
Hey, give me number 129.
Because I think with projects like that,
Yeah.
it kind of just feels like you're hanging out with your friends and you're having a great time. And at that point, it doesn't even feel like work anymore. And you're reminded why you're doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
Definitely. It also just, there's something so special about watching somebody have their dream come true.
Yeah.
We all know that feeling. You know, you've watched, like on TikTok, there's all these videos of kids getting into Harvard or Brown, and they've worked so hard for it. That was my same experience with watching Jazz do Jersey Boy. Jersey Boy has been like a passion project for him for years. You know, it's as we all know, it's very difficult to get a feature off the ground. Never mind like an award-winning feature. And just watching that was so touching, and it kind of makes you really believe in what could be possible for yourself and your career. And we all know, like, our careers could change in a second. And like 5 days or something. Like,
We never know.
anything.
Yeah.
You never know.
It's the one thing that's completely out of our hands. Like that part. The moment we're given the part, then we have control over what we can do, and it's our job. But until we get the part, it's so in the air, and we're like, oh, that was such a fun audition. Moving on.
You gotta keep going.
Exactly.
So be like, all right.
You can't think about it ever again. Otherwise, you will literally just lie in bed and like feel just nothing but despair.
I know, because you're like, damn it, I should have done this choice, I should have done that. And it always comes to you after you're done shooting the tape.
Yeah.
I just always
Every
fall.
single time.
Every time.
And it's not even like when you're done shooting the tape, it's like once you submit and it's too late, then like all these choices, you're like, oh my God, I could have played it this way. Or like maybe I should have done this motivation. It's like, it's without fail every time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No.
I'm curious about, and I love just talking to other actors about this, but when getting ready for a role, like, what do you do? Is there one thing that you do, or does it always change? Or like, what's a fun way for you to get into that world?
Oh man. I think it depends on the role, but like,
Yeah.
obviously just an initial read through first, just to figure out where I'm at and
Read
what
the
I'm
script.
doing.
No, that's real. That's real. But
Yeah.
I find for me, the initial read through, the first read through, it's so precious because it's your first impression of who this person is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of my favorite part because you're like, oh my gosh, like I wonder what she's gonna do. I wonder what this is about.
And what they're gonna say and how like stuff coming up of like even imagining the world when you're first reading the script the first time. And it's just it is a treat.
Magical.
It is a treat. Yeah, because your reactions are so spontaneous in that moment. And even when you're reading it for like the 400th time, you're like, oh crap, like how did I react the first time? Like I don't know if you guys have this issue, but when you first read a script, like and you start the self-tape, you have your tripod set up, you got your lights or your ring light or whatever, and then you take your deep breath, you breathe into it. But for some reason, sometimes the first line is always just a little bit awkward. Do you guys find that?
Yeah. It's just like stiff and it becomes really acty. Like you're like, like it literally comes off as if you're a non-actor. Like it'll be like, what are you doing here?
I was just gonna be like, what are you doing here? And you're like, why am I saying it like that?
There's somebody, and I haven't tried this yet, but I want to try it the next time that I film or self-tape. But they said, right before you tape, say something to yourself that's like 100% true. Or say like out loud. I'll be like, oh, I'm really sweaty right now. And it just propels you into the present moment.
Yeah.
And then through
Takes
that,
it
it's
out
like
of
the
your
truth.
head.
Yeah.
I think MAP has helped me a lot with like getting through auditions or starting out with auditions because like the philosophy is very just start with where you're at and don't try to get to an emotion, just start exactly how you're feeling and then through the script you'll probably get there anyway. And that's kind of how I've been trying to approach it more so because I have a big problem, as I'm sure like you guys probably do as well, maybe not, with pre-planning every emotion I wanted to have and everything I wanted to do. And obviously it's very like acting school. I didn't go to acting school, but like acting class as well, where you're like, yeah, like what are the emotional beats here? And what are
It's always the beats.
the objectives and then like
not the beats.
what are you fighting for?
There's a book called Actions. That's like a beat
Yes,
book. I'm scarred by it. I burned it.
We have to beat the beats, like no
It's
beating.
like, oh my gosh, like it's so exhausting because then you're so in your head the whole time wondering, how should I say this? Like if I was angry, then I would say it like this. Or like
That's real. I know. It's funny because you're like,
messes you up.
It's funny because more we get into our heads, more we're like, how have I ever been angry in my life? Like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, of course I
how
have
do you
been.
human?
And it's like, maybe I need to be a little bit more angry, but like 2% less. It's just the perfect sweet spot of anger right now. Should be
2% is
exactly.
real. The 2%. Oh my god.
Where are the impulses? Like you gotta leave all of that.
My motivations.
Yeah.
I find that it helps me to get all that out, just like write it all out the first time after I've read a script and then just forget about it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And just kind of go from when I'm doing the tape, go from what I'm feeling or where I'm at that very moment. Because I think what's kind of been a little bit easier is writing it out has helped me internalize it in a way that I'm not consistently thinking about it when I'm doing my tape. So whether when I'm actually doing my tape, the motivations that I thought I would be feeling are actually coming through or not in my head, like I'm just kind of like, it's fine, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But that way I still get to do that sort of planning that I like to do in terms of breaking the script down and having fun kind of figuring out where I want to go with it and what the scene actually is or who this character is and what they're feeling or what the show is about, but not carrying all that through into the tape so you're not being bogged down by like a freaking master's thesis on this like 4-page audition. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like if it's an audition, you don't want to like have all this background. You don't want to have like all this background for an audition because or else it's gonna be so hard to let go of it. Like how are you gonna like move on from giving so much to this one audition? Anyway, what I do is I always try to find my character's greatest insecurity and the thing that I'm the most confident in. My character, I mean. And I use that. And it's a really good base. It helps me because I think we all have that one insecurity. And we all have that one thing that we're very confident about within ourselves. And I think it's a good foundation also for an audition, and no teacher taught me that. I figured it out on my own. I don't really know if it works or not, but I've booked work so far, so I must do something right. But I like doing it that way instead of like writing down a whole backstory, which I used to do, and it was too much. It was too much of like too much commitment to something that is temporary, right? Like it's
the backstory stuff comes, I think, when you have more time to sit with her.
Yes.
Yeah. You're like, okay, like let's
like
figure
once
out
you've
what's
like
going
booked
on.
the role.
Exactly.
Now
that
dig
comes
into
in.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because you're right. It's like, okay, you have an audition and actually it's due Sunday and it's Saturday. Yeah, and you're like, weekend, what? But at the same time, you're like, okay, we just gotta, at some point it kind of feels like we just gotta get it done.
Yeah.
And I hate the rush, but it's also like, you know what, this is kind of good, so it just keeps you on your toes. It also just makes you let go faster.
I literally call it my vomit draft for the writing account. Because like, I know that's more like a writer thing, but it's like, and I do that too. Like, it's not the insecurities, but I kind of go with like, what's my favorite food? And like, just like random stupid things that isn't super important to the story, but for me kind of just makes me feel like I am this person. Or not even I am this person, like connects it to who I actually am.
Yeah, finding your truth in the story.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the key,
Yeah.
right? I always make a playlist.
Ooh,
Like,
me too.
as the character. Yeah,
Me too.
It really,
Me too.
music has always really helped
It
me.
helps.
Could like get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's this person. Oh yeah, I got it.
What's your definition of success for an actor? Like, it might be personal or it might be just in general.
Ooh.
Tenacious question.
I think for me, what I've gathered through all my different experiences, I guess, is peace of mind. Peace of mind as an actor, which is actually quite rare to come across because it's such a hectic industry with the business and the O1s and, you know, like the auditions and all of that. But I think for me, success as an actor is peace. peace of mind knowing that I did what I wanted to do in that tape. I did justice to that character to the best of my ability with what I wanted to do and what I liked and what I had fun with at the time. Peace of mind knowing that the moment's passed and I feel good about it. And that's enough. Like, that's enough for me. Even just the audition, like, even getting the audition, you're like, peace, cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's great that, like you said, like, all these projects have come to fruition. And it's just peaceful. Like, it's just very zen.
I love that answer.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I was like, I think I'm rambling about peace, but it's just, but you know, for me,
It's so real though.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
real. Like,
Yeah.
I think, you know, with all of us experiencing the past 3 years of like the strike on top of COVID, and then now the economy shot, and it's like, it's all these different things that I'm like, you know what? I can only control what I can control. And that is good enough.
Yeah.
I'm good enough. And I have peace. Oh my God. Sorry. Sorry. And, you know, that's okay with me and that's enough. And just like what you said, we just like ourselves.
Yeah.
And I like that you said like,
Yeah.
not love.
Because you got to stay humble.
Exactly. That's exactly
keep your
what.
2 feet grounded. Like,
Absolutely.
none of us are better than anybody, you know what I'm saying?
No.
Like, you've got something to offer, you too, I do too, and like, it's all different and it's beautiful and that's what it is, you know?
I remember saying to my partner once, I love you, but even more than that, I like you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so
And
important.
that's an incredible compliment to give and to receive.
Oh, yeah.
So finding that for self, is so
Totally.
important.
100%.
Yeah.
I think it was like, I realized the impact of that when I was watching Lady Bird in like 2017.
Oh my God.
And it was that scene where her mom was like, of course I love you, but she was like, but do you like me? And I was like, that is more important. Oh my gosh. Like it, and what you were saying was, I was thinking of that scene the entire time where I was like, yeah, like it's so important to just
It
be able
is.
to actually like yourself.
Yeah.
And
Because like you're gonna have, we're all people here, you know? We do what we do and it's great and it's not us up there, you know, on that screen. We all have those moments where we don't like ourselves, but as long as we do like ourselves for the most part of the time, I think we're doing pretty good.
honestly, like, I kind of want to add to that. Like, I think I do also want to get okay with not liking myself for like little moments. Like having
Exactly.
times where I'm like, I just feel like shit today and that's fine. Like I hopefully won't feel like shit tomorrow. Just like being okay with feeling whatever I'm feeling at the moment instead of trying to force yourself into this
like
toxic positivity.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even that is a notion of like towards yourself where you're like, you know what? I feel shitty today.
Yeah.
I'm getting discouraged. I don't feel good about myself today. And I think a big part of liking yourself is being like, okay, let's just sit with it.
And
Let's
it's
just
in
sit
like
with it.
every level, I think. And I think we were talking about social media, but it's that aspect of like, it's fine if I feel like I look kind of icky today. And it's like, I don't have to look perfect every single day.
No.
And like, it's fine. Like we can look great one day and then feel like we don't look the best the next day. But that's like, I don't think like men go around being like, oh my God, like I need to feel like super beautiful all the freaking time. And it's like, I think it's okay to just feel neutral about yourself sometimes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
the
like,
whole thing about like pursuit of happiness, I think, is so misunderstood in a way because I think we're learned to go towards having a happy life, but what comes with a happy life is the constant battles that life throws at you, and like it's
and they're
beautiful.
never ending.
Yes,
They're
because
never ending.
But what you do with those battles, how you achieve or how you overcome those bumps on the road as actors or as people, like that's what defines you as a person, in my opinion.
It's how you show up, how you greet yourself every single day.
Yeah.
Like that's all it is. And having the courage to be so radically honest with yourself. Because I think that's actually really difficult.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
You could lie to yourself, but you could lie yourself into a hole, right? But then when you come out of the hole, you're like, you know what? I don't want to be this version of myself anymore. So radical honesty is just, it's a radical show of like for yourself. It really is.
Exactly.
It really is.
Yeah, and like that's not to say like dig yourself into like a I suck
No,
mentality.
no,
But it's
no.
like, it's okay if like for an hour you're like, oh my God, I just need to feel bad.
Yeah.
And then,
just let it pass
like,
through.
exactly, let it pass through, and then you don't.
Yeah, just
Well, the
feel-
more you try to push it down, the more it's just gonna.
Oh, it'll come back.
Exactly.
Always.
It's
You
not
can't
going.
hide it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think like that's the most liberating thing that I found
Yeah.
is just being okay with not feeling like I'm where I'm at, want to be right now. Because it's
Yeah.
like, what you were saying, like I just want to feel at peace and I just want to feel like I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully one day I get to this point that I feel like, oh, like this is more comfortable and more peaceful, but I don't really want to be not okay with being like it's so unrealistic to expect yourself to not feel like shit sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And even so, it's the hedonistic treadmill of chasing something. You're always going to want something
Yeah.
else. It's
Oh,
always
yeah.
going to be the next role. It's like the next movie. But
Yeah.
just really staying present with what you have right now and just gratitude, I feel like is a complete
huge.
game changer.
Yeah.
It's so huge. Like if you're able to be today, you know, like I think that's really important. And I'm still learning this. Like I don't have it figured out, I promise. But
Oh,
like,
none of us do.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think anybody ever does.
We never
Yeah.
will. Like
Yeah.
the secret is, guys, is that no one has it figured out. No one has
I
it
love
figured
it.
out.
I
clue
love
what
it
we're
too,
doing at any
but I
point.
love
Yeah.
it too. And I
Yeah.
love when people admit it. Because
Yes.
then it's like, God, nobody knows.
Like, you don't know either. I don't know either. It's like, we're just trying our best here.
God.
The world
Yeah.
is so harsh and it's so difficult. So
Yeah.
why make it more difficult on ourselves?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know?
And tomorrow isn't for certain, right? Like,
Yeah.
all we really do have is this right here.
Right now. Yeah.
I
That's real.
remember I was having a conversation with my agent once, and she was saying, and this was such a great reminder, but the magic of what it is to even get an audition, like everything that the production had to go through to get that fucking film made or that show
Yeah.
or whatever, like even it existing,
Yeah.
and like the magic of being able to give to it a little bit, whether you book the role or not, but like I think, you know, we don't really see that, or people who aren't in the industry don't see that. They don't understand actually how difficult it is to even
Yeah.
write something, get a producer attached to it, like get it made, get
Funding.
it financed.
Get that one
Grant
foot through the
writing,
door.
all of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then just like receiving an audition is a gift. It's just like,
It
wow,
is. That's true.
okay, let's play,
Yeah.
right?
I think like the hardest part for starting actors is definitely realizing you can't take any of it personally, because having been on both sides of it now, I know some of the times, most of the times, it has absolutely nothing to do with you, whether you get the callback or the role. And it's like, obviously talent is a huge aspect of whether you're booking the role or not, but so often than not, it's just like these out of your control production things
Oh my God,
that
I
have
know.
nothing to do with you at all.
Or your location, your
Yeah.
like where you pay taxes, all these different
Yeah.
things, and you're like, whoa. That's why we have agents, because I'm like, you know, guys, I trust you. I
That's right.
trust you. You
We'll
guys
figure it out.
guys
I know.
figure it out. 'Cause even, you know, discussing or talking about or thinking about things like working stateside, O1 visas, the green card, you're just kind of like, you know what?
I'm
I
going
have
through that
no idea.
process right now. And
I have no idea. I have no idea.
How is that going for you?
It's great. It's fine. I found I basically had like a few meetings with different lawyers, and then one of them was a bit closed off and like intense, and it really freaked me out. And then the other one was very
boy.
warm and kind and welcoming. And then I was like, I'll collaborate with you on this.
I think
Is
I
this
like
for you to
you. I
work
like
in the
you.
U.S.? or-
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to apply for visa, but it's been fine so far. I think. I don't know. We'll see. Ask me in a week. I might be like pulling my hair out.
Well, the whole process of even getting the O1 visa is just so convoluted.
I know.
There's
Yes. So,
no, it's okay.
So
it's
many
okay.
feelings.
No, I felt the passion because you're like you're reaching out to people that maybe you haven't talked to in a while for letters and recommendations and stuff, and you're like,
You're like compiling press of yourself to prove that you're like a very important person.
it kind
God.
of feels.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
It feels so self-indulgent, but at the same time, you're like, okay, you just got to do what you got to do, and it's just part of the business part of it.
Yeah, it's the business side, right? Separate from the art of it. That's something. Have you guys ever had to grapple with that? Because I think that's something that I've definitely like had my own feelings and issues with, right? Like the industry versus the art making.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, you
100%.
guys.
Ooh.
all
It's
the
like,
time.
it's from everything from the paperwork and the visas to just like, oh, like how can I leverage myself on social media, because that's such a big thing now for getting cast and things, and whether you have a following or not. And it is so strange to have to worry about that sometimes, because it would be so nice to just not worry about anything other than just the role that you have, or the roles that you're trying to get, or the training that you're doing. But then I kind of realized that it's not like that for any industry. Like, it's not like that for anything, and especially not as a performer, where the business is you. Like, it's not just the work that you're doing, but you yourself are literally what the sell is, especially in film and TV, and obviously even in theater. But yeah, I'd like to hear what you guys think as well about grappling with that.
Social media stuff, that to me personally, and I've always been this way. Instagram is fun, and I've always kept it with my friends, and it's always been sort of like a diary thing to just share with your close people, and then it sort of grows when you start working and you get, oh, okay, I guess I don't have that many followers, whatever. But the idea of having to think of it professionally, to me takes, I guess, a toll in a way, because I really don't care about social media. I'm not on TikTok. I never know the references. I'm always the one like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm always the random person that's like, I'm not on social media, guys.
And you feel so old.
Yeah.
You're like,
Listen, I only got TikTok because my two best friends were like, you need to get it because we're tired of copying and pasting the links to you. And I was like, okay, fine. And I only really reply to them.
Yeah.
But even then, you're right. It feels dystopian.
It's weird because
it feels strange.
Like, how would I say this? I feel it takes away from the beauty of being actors, because now you have to become a brand to be an actor. Like, what you do as an actor is you represent a character in a story that you're going to tell, that's going to be, shown to the world. To me, that's why I do it. I want to be part of a community. I want it to be intimate. I want it to be, separated from the rest of the world until it comes out as the product as it's supposed to be. Not, oh, I'm this person and now I'm like in this movie and you should watch this movie. Like, the mindset of like promoting because I am who I am is like, I'm not doing this to be like, I don't know, idolized in any way. I just want to represent good movies or good shows and good stories that just, shine a light on things that I'm passionate about. I don't want to have to like share things on social. To me, it becomes a shallow path to it all.
It becomes very showboaty.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to be authentic, but
not too authentic.
It's like
to the point that
authentic in a really nice, curated sort of way.
Exactly. In this weird
be
lens.
different, but not too different.
Exactly.
Like, still fit
You
in
still
this
have
box.
to be marketable. But you can't be too much of yourself. But you have to stand out from everyone else. There's so much polarizing requirements in the business side of the whole thing. But I think what I wanted to know about you guys was like, how do you guys separate it? Because I feel like there's so much noise sometimes with follower counts. Like, even on some of the breakdowns, sometimes it's like, please insert follower count. And I'm like,
That's crazy.
Honestly,
to me.
it's been insane to start seeing that.
Yeah.
And it's what you were saying, it's disheartening. Like, social media, sure, like, it can be fun, it can be fruitful in so many different ways, but I didn't realize when I first started how connected it would become with acting itself. Because like, I had also assumed that, like, once you make it big, like, somebody's doing it for you. They're managing your social media for you so that they can market your brand, and like, you have a manager doing that stuff. But at this point where like, like, casting calls will ask for follower accounts, it becomes very real in the sense that you kind of have to do it. Like, it's not an option anymore where you're like, like, I can just kind of be really off grid. And like, you might get lucky and it might work out for you, but it sucks to know that the reality is that you kind of have to leverage it. Like, you have to use that as a tool to make it like one of those things where like, I'm somebody in the industry, like, I'm doing work and I'm doing all these things instead of just doing the work.
instead of just being and participating in it.
Yeah. But wouldn't it be like, sorry, go ahead.
No,
Go.
I used to think that if I checked off all these boxes and did the things like I was told I should do, that I would be successful, quote unquote, or like make it, or whatever the phrases that you want to use.
Yeah.
But I realized very quickly, like when I did that and I didn't feel like I was doing it for me or for my art or for the craft itself, it felt very empty.
Yeah.
And I wasn't happy with where I was at personally, like with myself, my relationship with myself. And then I think that was a turning point where I just went, okay, I can't be unhappy doing the thing that I love doing every day. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I just started like every step of the way doing it for me. And that was a huge turning point. Like it wasn't about, oh, what do I think you want and how can I give that to you? It was like, no, what's the story here? What am I trying to tell? Okay, this is gonna sound so but like I get to no, all the thoughts that are in my head, I don't want this to sound ridiculous.
No,
but like I get
space.
But like I get to shower you with my gift right now. Like you get to witness me doing my thing.
Wow, I cannot believe you would say that.
Like no. In my head I was like, I bestow my gift upon you. Like, not like that, but it's like no, actually this is special and like you said before, like such a vulnerable craft that like me sharing this with you is actually a gift. So like, can you do me the honor of just sitting there and not asking me how many fucking Instagram followers I have and just like be here with me and collaborate?
But that turning point for you must have been just fulfilling instead of just an empty experience. Like
it was. And then you also like from that point on also decided like, I'm actually going to be seen and hired by the people that I value their work as well and they'll value mine and that's that relationship. That's how it's going to be. I refuse to get hired because of my image online.
No.
Or
plus the right collaborators will see that in your performance. 100%. Like attracts like, they'll see it and the work speaks for itself. Always.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about I think, this is my gift and this is what I'm here just to show you. One of my favorite acting coaches, Louis Baumander, he said this. He says, walk into every room with something to offer. Because they could smell the needy energy. Like they could smell it through the screen, how bad you want the job.
Yeah.
And the problem is that it's hard not to want something that you care so deeply about.
Yeah.
But it's also a thing of like how transient this whole industry is and how transient I think we need to, how am I going to say this? How transient or how tightly or how loosely we hold on to each and every audition that we have. Because the tighter we hold on, it just gets, it almost feels like it gets ripped away from you faster.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, like they could smell it. They could smell that you want it, and the character doesn't want a job. The character is just in this world wanting what they want and needing what they need. And I think for you to hit that point where you're like, you know what, this is for me. Yeah. It's like the huge hill that I guess maybe every new actor approaches as well. And I know I had such a difficult time. And sometimes even now, like there's still tiny
there's always going to be things. There's always going to be like
you're always going to want it. Let's put it that way.
But I think there's a way to care so deeply about it and to want it, but not have that be like the reek of desperation. Like I think there's a way to make it
like have it motivate
about
you
care.
rather than
Exactly.
tearing yourself down. Ian actually said something in the last class I was in. We also go to the same actor studio for different classes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Which is also crazy because we haven't seen each other at all
in the classes. I know.
Like, I've seen because they'll do social media posts, and I've seen and I saw them post her, and I was like, oh my god, Andrea, and like. But I've never seen her. I looked right into the camera for that. I just did it again. But Ian said something that really resonated where he was like, the little voice inside your head that is always complaining about how you're not good enough or how you're scared or you're holding on to auditions is always going to be there. And you can never get rid of that. But what you can do is make the other voice louder. So just motivating yourself and advocating for yourself and sort of being like, well, I am just doing this for me and I'm doing it because I love this as a craft or I'm doing it because I want to do it. You can make that louder and have it almost drown out the other side. And it's like you can never get rid of the critique of yourself, but you can always advocate for yourself louder inside your head.
Oh yeah, like you have to be your biggest cheerleader. Like you have to vouch for yourself, because so many people are gonna doubt you. So many people are gonna say, "Why do you think you're gonna make it?" Well, like what makes you better than anyone else? And they're gonna ask those weird questions. And the reality is that, like, at the end of the day, you know why you're doing this. I think the biggest, like, 2 questions I asked myself anyway was, you know, why am I doing this, and what do I want to achieve by being an actor? And, like, you also need to like yourself as a person. I think the biggest thing that we forget is that, like, being an actor is not what defines us. Being an actor is our job, and we are actual people. Like, we are all just people, and we're passionate about the same thing. And that's what makes people, you know, unite and make films together. Like, that's the beautiful part of it all. But you have to like yourself. If you don't like yourself, that's when we attract the wrong kind of people in our lives.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
I was literally having this conversation with a friend the other week. This is crazy. Yeah. But I think it's so relevant, and there's a reason why everybody's talking about that now, right? It is. We do have to have our own backs. Like, we have to be our own cheerleaders.
What was it? I said this, I think, to my mom. Is like, I have to have my heart in my sleeve, but my eyes wide open.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but, you know, you have to just be so vulnerable and open with people, but also, you know, you have to be aware of your surroundings. And that's the reality.
And I think it comes down to, this is actually from the studio that we study at. It's called NAP. Started by Meredith McGeechee, but she was talking about this in a class one day. Or it's been an ongoing conversation, actually, where we're trying to figure out how can we feel so safe within our own bodies that regardless of if our partner across from us is giving us something or not, or the audition room feels warm or cold, like regardless of the situation, how can we create that safe space for ourselves and have access to everything that we need access to create our art?
Yeah, because we're responsible for ourselves. No one else is.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we got to take care of ourselves, and also make sure that we can be aware of everyone else around. I think also, too, like, that's forgotten sometimes. Obviously, we're not naming any names today, but, like, you know, there's like the friendships that you keep. There's the friendships that you keep, like the people and the actors.
Expose session.
No.
The red room, actually.
Oh boy.
We're gonna have to wrap it up before we start doing any of that.
No, but all I'm gonna say is, like, I think going back to, like, realizing that being an actor is not what you are, and also being aware that you're not the only person in the world. We're not, like, I'm not living in my world and people are around me. We're living in a world of the people. And I think that's even more powerful in film. And we have to not forget that when we get to set, everyone involved on set is what's making this project. It's not just you. Lead or not, you know, whatever you're doing, you're as important as the next guy next to you, no matter what you're doing on set. And I feel like that can be easily forgotten.
Yeah.
And you have to trust that everyone knows what they're doing, and most just like yourself and like people. Like, don't be a skeptic right off the bat. I think that's the one thing I have to say is, like,
just be kind.
Yeah.
Just be a kind human being.
Yeah.
Just be kind is such a good spot to end this entire thing, is just be kind and have fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, we're doing this job because it's fun to do.
Because we love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, why do it if it's going to make you miserable? I think you said that, like, why do it if you're going to be miserable doing it the whole time? So just like yourself.
Yeah.
Like yourself.
Like what you're doing.
Have fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love this pep talk.
Hype each other up. Well, it was so good chatting with all of you. This was awesome.
This was so much fun.
Yeah.
This was really fun.
This was really fun.
was.
Great.
You guys
So
rock.
cool. You guys rock.
You were,
Yeah.
you rocked. It never changed. I love the support on Women's Day. Like,
On International Women's Day.
It's
Exactly.
Day.
International Women's Day. Thanks,
Cheers.
everyone. Yes.
cheers.